The stars outside looked like tiny pinpricks of white against the deep black of space. Captain Junho Park sat in his command chair, fingers tapping a slow rhythm on the armrest. The U.S. Resilience cut through the emptiness of the Andromeda sector, a tiny speck of human technology floating in an ocean of unknown possibilities. Junho was not expecting anything special that day. Space exploration was mostly about waiting. Waiting and watching. Watching and recording. Most days passed with nothing more exciting than routine system checks and long conversations with the crew. Today was different. The ship's sensor array suddenly lit up with an unusual signal. It was not like anything in their database. Not human. Not familiar. Junho leaned forward, his heart rate picking up speed. Dae-eun, he called to his communications officer. What are we looking at? Dae-eun Kim's fingers flew across her console. Her eyes were wide, reflecting the strange patterns of light dancing across her screen. Unknown vessel, Captain. Definitely not human. Composition is weird. The material doesn't match any known spacecraft in our records. The ship before them looked nothing like human designs. Where human spacecraft were typically angular and practical, this vessel seemed to twist and curve in ways that hurt the eyes. Its surface shifted colors, moving from deep purple to a shimmering green, then to a metallic silver that seemed to breathe. Are they responding to our communication attempts? Junho asked. Negative, Dae-eun responded, but they're not running. They're just watching us. Junho understood the importance of this moment. First contact with a new species was not something that happened every day. Humans had explored vast areas of space, met several alien civilizations, but each new encounter was unique. Each brought its own set of challenges and unexpected surprises. The bridge was silent. Every crew member was alert, watching their screens, waiting for something to happen. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Suddenly, a holographic interface appeared in the center of the bridge. It was not a human projection. The interface looked alive, moving and pulsing with strange energy. A figure began to take shape, tall, with multiple limbs that seemed to flow like liquid metal. First translator Rectal of the Kralexi collective appeared. The alien's form was both beautiful and terrifying. Its body seemed to change shape constantly, as if it couldn't decide on a single form. Multiple eyes, or what looked like eyes, blinked and moved independently. When it spoke, the sound was not heard but felt, a vibration that seemed to pass through everyone's body. Junho knew this was a critical moment. One wrong move could destroy years of potential diplomatic relationship. He needed to be calm, professional, careful. But space, as everyone knows, has a sense of humor. And sometimes, humor comes in the most unexpected ways. The ship's communication system chose that exact moment to glitch. The communication system went crazy. Lights flickered. Screens jumped and danced with random lines of code. Junho's hand, which was resting near the holographic interface, twitched involuntarily. In that split second of system failure, something impossible happened. His fingers brushed against the alien hologram. For a moment, nothing moved, nothing breathed. The entire bridge seemed to freeze in time. First translator Rectal stopped moving. All of its shifting, liquid-like body suddenly became solid. The multiple eyes that had been moving independently now focused on Junho's hand with a terrifying intensity. Dae-eun Kim held her breath. She knew something was wrong. Very wrong. The ship's computer began to make a sound. It was not an alarm. It was not a warning. It was something between a mechanical whimper and a strange, almost ceremonial chime. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Rectal's form started to change again. But this time, it was different. The alien's body shifted from its fluid, metallic appearance to something that looked almost shocked. Captain, Dae-eun whispered, her voice trembling. I think something just happened. Junho tried to pull his hand back, but it was like something was holding him in place. The holographic interface seemed to pulse with an energy that felt alive. It wrapped around his hand like a living thing, cool and warm at the same time. "Translate," Juno commanded, his voice steady despite the weirdness of the moment. Dayan's fingers moved across her console, but the translation that came through was not what anyone expected. "Kohan take te is te biblai shahid," the computer announced in a voice that sounded both mechanical and emotional. "Biological and illegal boani ko environment." The bridge crew looked at each other. What did that even mean? Rectal finally moved. The alien's multiple limbs extended, creating a complex gesture that seemed part communication, part ritual. When it spoke, the sound was different. No longer was it a vibration that passed through bodies. Now it sounded like words. Careful, precise, human. Rectal said, "You have touched me." Junho blinked. "Yes, I mean, it was an accident. Our systems." "By law," Rectal interrupted, "we are now mates." Silence. More silence. The kind of silence that happens when something so weird is said that nobody knows how to respond. Junho looked at Dayan. Dayan looked at the other crew members. The other crew members looked back at Junho. Nobody knew what to say. "Mates," Junho finally managed to ask. Rectal's body shifted again. If an alien could look serious and ceremonial, this was that moment. In the laws of the Kralexi Collective, any physical contact between sentient beings establishes a permanent biological and legal partnership. You touched me. Therefore, we are now bound. The implications started to sink in. This was not just a small problem. This was a massive, universe-sized problem. A diplomatic incident was born from a simple, accidental touch, and nobody on the bridge knew how to fix it. The communication channel between the U.S. Resilience and the Kralexi vessel remained open, but nothing made sense anymore. Junho stared at Rectal, hoping this was some kind of elaborate joke. It was not. "Let me understand this clearly," Junho said slowly. "Because my hand accidentally touched your holographic interface, we are now married." Rectal's multiple eyes blinked in a pattern that seemed almost like a nod. "Bonded, permanently connected, by the most sacred laws of my people." Daeun Kim tried to help. She was good at solving problems. Surely there must be a way to cancel or reset this arrangement. The alien's body shifted, creating shapes that looked like a mix between a shrug and a complex mathematical equation. "Impossible," Rectal responded. "The bond is biological, legal, cosmic." The crew of the Resilience looked at each other. Some looked confused. Some looked like they wanted to laugh. Some looked terrified. Captain Junho Park looked like he had swallowed something very uncomfortable. "What exactly does this bonding mean?" Junho asked. Rectal's form rippled. The aliens seemed to be choosing words carefully. "We are now considered a single unit in Kralexi society. Our thoughts, resources, and futures are legally intertwined. We must make joint decisions, share living spaces, potentially reproduce." The last word hung in the air like a dangerous cloud. Junho coughed. "Reproduce." "Not immediately," Rectal added quickly. "But the biological bond means we are now compatible for potential future reproduction across species." The bridge went silent. Daeun whispered to the navigator, "Is this even possible?" The navigator whispered back, "I don't want to know." Junho tried a different approach. "This was clearly an accident. Surely your people will understand." Rectal's body made a sound that might have been a laugh, or a warning, or both. "Understand. This is the most sacred law of my people. To break this bond would be like destroying the very fabric of our social structure." The implications started to sink in. This was not just a small problem. This was a massive diplomatic situation that could change everything. Earth would need to be informed. The Kralexi High Council would need to be consulted. Lawyers would get involved. Scientists would study this. Historians would write books about this moment. all because of one tiny accidental touch. So, Junho said slowly, "What happens now?" Rectal's form expanded, creating complex geometric shapes that seemed to pulse with meaning. Now we learn about each other. Now we become partners. The word partners sounded both promising and terrifying. Junho looked at his crew. They looked back at him with a mix of sympathy, amusement, and pure shock. One thing was certain: this was going to be the most interesting diplomatic mission in human history, and it had only just begun. The Krelexi High Council chamber was not a peaceful place that day. Holographic screens flickered with images of Captain Junho Park and First Translator Rectal. The council members looked like a collection of living crystals, each one a different color and shape, but all sharing the same expression of total disbelief. "Explain," demanded Councillor Vornak, a being whose body seemed to be made of shifting blue and silver fragments, how this happened. Rectal began to describe the incident. Every time the translator converted the alien's words, the story sounded more and more ridiculous. An accidental touch, a system malfunction, a centuries-old law suddenly becoming very, very complicated. Meanwhile, on Earth, the situation was no less chaotic. The United Earth Diplomatic Corps was in an emergency meeting. The room was filled with people who had spent years studying alien cultures, and none of them had ever seen anything like this. "So," said Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez, rubbing her temples, "we have a human captain who is now legally married to an alien because of a computer glitch." The senior diplomat across from her nodded. His tablet was filled with legal documents, cultural analysis reports, and what seemed like a million different potential outcomes. "It's more complicated than that," he said. "The Krelexi law is not just a simple marriage contract. It's a complete biological and legal merging of two beings. They share everything: resources, thoughts, potential future offspring." Lisa looked like she wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. Back on the Krelexi vessel, Junho was having his own problems. Rectal had begun what the alien called initial bonding procedures. This involved a series of strange rituals that made absolutely no sense to a human. "We must now synchronize our breathing patterns," Rectal explained, demonstrating by changing color and shape in a complex pattern. Junho tried to follow along. He really did. But how do you synchronize breathing with a being that doesn't seem to breathe in any way humans would understand? The ship's computer continued to announce random updates about their bond, sometimes in English, sometimes in the strange musical language of the Krelexi, sometimes in what seemed like mathematical equations. Biological compatibility, 62.7% co-environment, the computer would suddenly announce. Junho wondered if he was going crazy. The Krelexi High Council continued their debate. Some members were excited. A bond between humans and Krelexi could open up new diplomatic possibilities. Others were horrified. The idea of mixing their pure, ancient culture with something as unpredictable as humans seemed like a nightmare. "We cannot simply ignore our most sacred law," argued one counselor. "But this was an accident," shouted another. The debate went on and on. Hours passed. Junho continued to try to synchronize with Rectal. The computer continued to make strange announcements. And somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, a new chapter of intergalactic relations was being written. One accidental touch at a time. 2 weeks had passed since the accidental touch. Junho and Rectal were now spending more time together than any human and Krelexi had ever done before. What started as a diplomatic nightmare was slowly turning into something different. Junho discovered that Rectal was actually quite interesting when you got past the whole unexpected mate situation. The alien had a surprising sense of humor. It came out in weird ways, like how Rectal would change colors based on different emotions. Junho learned that a swirl of green meant the alien was telling a joke. A quick flash of purple meant Rectal was feeling confused. "Your human music is very strange," Rectal said one day, listening to an old pop song Junho had playing in his quarters. Junho laughed. You're telling me alien communication is more normal? The ship's computer chose that moment to chime in. Mate sivom pated ability and acing, it announced cheerfully. Both Junho and Rectal looked at the computer. Then they looked at each other. Then they laughed. It was a breakthrough moment. The Kralexi discovered that humans were not just random, chaotic beings. They had complex systems of thinking. Junho showed Rectal how humans solved problems, not through rigid rules, but through creativity and adaptability. Rectal, in turn, taught Junho about Kralexi mathematical philosophy. The alien could transform complex mathematical concepts into living, moving shapes. Junho watched in amazement as Rectal demonstrated advanced calculations by literally becoming the numbers. This is how we think, Rectal explained. Mathematics is not just numbers. It is living art. The scientific community went crazy. Researchers from both species wanted to study this unexpected partnership. How did a random touch create such a deep connection? What could be learned from this? Daeun Kim, still serving as the communication officer, found herself translating the most unusual reports. Meetings between Junho and Rectal were no longer just diplomatic discussions. They were exchanges of entire cultural universes. They're learning from each other, she told the ship's doctor. It's like watching two completely different worlds talk to each other for the first time. The Kralexi High Council watched with mixed feelings. Some members were horrified. Others were fascinated. The human Kralexi pair was breaking every rule and creating something entirely new. Junho realized something important. The accidental touch that seemed like a disaster was actually a gift. He was learning things no human had ever known before. About alien thinking, about different ways of seeing the universe. Rectal was changing too. The alien was becoming less rigid, more flexible, more human-like. I do not understand why humans find cat videos so amusing, Rectal said one day, watching a video Junho had shown. Junho grinned. That's exactly the point. You're not supposed to understand. You're supposed to enjoy. The ship's computer made another announcement. Mate song synchronization, 78.3% complete. Neither Junho nor Rectal paid attention this time. They were too busy trying to understand each other. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, something remarkable was happening. Two completely different beings were becoming something more than anyone had ever imagined. The music was loud, strange, completely alien to Kralexi ears, or whatever passed for ears on Rectal's body. Earth jazz played through the ship's speakers. The trumpet solo twisted and turned, full of wild energy. Junho watched carefully, waiting for Rectal's reaction. At first, the alien just shifted colors. Blue, green, purple. Then something unexpected happened. Rectal's entire body began to move. Not dance, exactly, but pulse, vibrate, respond to the music in a way no one had ever seen before. This is interesting, Rectal said, body swirling with colors that seemed to match the music's rhythm. Junho grinned. You like it? Like is not the correct word, Rectal responded. The sound creates mathematical patterns. It is beautiful in its chaos. That was how cultural exchange worked between them now. Nothing was simple. Everything was complicated. Wonderful. Rectal began to show Junho Kralexi art. It was nothing like human art. Imagine mathematics becoming alive. Imagine numbers that could move and breathe. That was Kralexi art. The alien created a holographic display. Numbers and shapes danced. They told stories without words. Complex equations became landscapes. Mathematical sequences became emotions. This is how we remember, Rectal explained. Not with images, not with words, but with living mathematics. Junho watched, amazed. His human brain tried to understand something completely outside human experience. The ship's computer continued its updates. Mate understanding. 85.6% complete. Nobody paid attention anymore. Junho showed Rectal human humor. jokes, comedy videos. The alien found human laughter fascinating. Each joke was like a complex puzzle to be solved. Why do humans find pain amusing? Rektal asked after watching a comedy sketch about someone falling down. Junho laughed. We don't exactly find pain funny. We find the unexpected funny. Rektal's body changed colors. The alien version of a laugh. Their quarters became a strange mix of human and Krolexi culture. Earth music played next to mathematical sound waves. Human paintings hung near living numerical displays. Books sat next to holographic story equations. Other crew members watched with a mix of confusion and fascination. This was not just a diplomatic mission anymore. This was something else. Something new. Daeun Kim, the communication officer, kept detailed logs. Every interaction was a potential breakthrough. Every moment could change everything humans knew about alien communication. They are not just talking, she told the ship's doctor. They are creating a new language, a new way of understanding. The doctor nodded. Strangest diplomatic mission in human history. Outside the ship, other alien species watched. The Krolexi High Council monitored every moment. Earth's diplomatic court analyzed every interaction. An accidental touch had become something more. Much more. A bridge between two completely different ways of seeing the universe. And it was just the beginning. Not everyone was happy about what was happening. On the Krolexi homeworld, conservative leaders gathered in their crystal chambers. They looked like living statues made of sharp edges and angry colors. The holographic displays showed Junho and Rektal's growing partnership, and they did not like what they saw. This is madness, growled Counselor Vornak, his body shifting into sharp, angry shades. A human cannot be a true mate to a Krolexi. Our cultures are too different. Another counselor agreed. This breaks thousands of years of tradition. If we allow this to continue, everything we know will change. Meanwhile, on Earth, similar conversations were happening. The diplomatic offices were filled with people who saw the partnership as a threat. Some saw it as a potential security risk. Others saw it as a complete cultural invasion. A human captain cannot be legally bound to an alien, argued one senior diplomat. This is ridiculous. This is dangerous. Junho and Rektal knew about the resistance. They could feel the tension growing around them. But they also knew something the others did not. They were becoming something new. One day, Junho showed Rektal how humans solve conflicts. Not with rigid rules, not with complex mathematical equations, but with understanding, with talking, with listening. Rektal was fascinated. Your method is chaotic, the alien said, but it is also effective. The ship's computer chose that moment to make an announcement. Mate understanding. 92.4% complete. Junho laughed. Rektal changed colors. The alien version of a laugh. But the resistance was growing. Reports came in from both human and Krolexi sources. Some wanted to separate them. Some wanted to study them like experiments. Some wanted to pretend the whole thing never happened. Daeun Kim, the communication officer, worked overtime. She translated messages. She tracked communications. She understood something important was happening. They're afraid of change, she told the ship's doctor. Humans and Krolexi both hate things that are different. The doctor nodded. But change happens anyway. Junho and Rektal knew they were more than just a diplomatic accident now. They were a bridge, a connection between two completely different ways of thinking. The Krolexi saw mathematics as a living thing. Humans saw creativity as the most important skill. Together, they were creating something nobody had ever seen before. Conservative leaders on both sides tried to stop them. They sent messages. They made rules. They tried to separate Junho and Rektal. But something unexpected happened. The more they tried to separate them, the stronger their connection became. We are not just mates, Rektal told Junho one day. We are a new way of understanding. Junho smiled. A new way of seeing the universe. Outside the ship, stars moved, galaxies spun, and two beings from completely different worlds continued to learn from each other. The universe watched and waited. Change was coming. The alarm was unlike anything anyone had heard before. It started as a low hum, then grew. Massive communication arrays across multiple star systems began to light up. Something big was happening. Something dangerous. The Void Swarm was coming. Nobody knew exactly what the Void Swarm was. Not completely. It was a force that ate through space, destroyed entire civilizations, left nothing behind but empty darkness. Hundreds of alien species had tried to stop it. All had failed. Junho and Rectal were called into an emergency meeting. The holographic display showed terrible images. Entire star systems reduced to dust. Planets turned into nothing. The Void Swarm moved like a hungry beast, consuming everything in its path. "We have tried everything," said the Galactic Defense Commander. His hologram looked tired, defeated. Junho looked at Rectal. Rectal looked back. Something passed between them. Something that no one else could see. "Not everything," Junho said quietly. The room went silent. Rectal's body began to change, not just in color, but in shape. Mathematical equations started to flow around the alien's form, complex patterns that moved like living things. Junho understood what Rectal was doing before anyone else did. The Kralexi mathematical philosophy, human creative problem-solving. Two completely different ways of thinking, combined into something new. "We can create a barrier," Rectal said. "Not a physical barrier, a mathematical barrier." The defense commander looked confused. "What does that mean?" Junho explained. "Imagine a shield made of living numbers, equations that can change, adapt, fight back." It sounded impossible. But in that moment, nothing was impossible. Rectal's body became a living computer. Numbers flowed, shifted, transformed. Junho's human creativity guided the process, finding gaps, seeing patterns that mathematical thinking might miss. The ship's computer made an announcement. "Mate Solwank synchronization, 99.9% complete." Nobody paid attention. They were too busy watching something amazing happen. Lines of code became shields. Mathematical patterns became weapons. The Void Swarm approached, a darkness that had destroyed everything in its path. But this time was different. When the Void Swarm hit the mathematical barrier, something unexpected happened. The barrier didn't just block. It fought back. It learned. It changed. It was alive. Junho and Rectal worked as one being. Not two separate creatures. One complete system. Hours passed. Days. The battle continued. Other species watched, waited, hoped, and then suddenly, the Void Swarm began to retreat. For the first time in galactic history, something had stopped the unstoppable. The room erupted in cheers, but Junho and Rectal just looked at each other. They knew something the others did not. This was just the beginning. The universe would never be the same again. 1 month after stopping the Void Swarm, everything had changed. The galaxy looked different. Junho and Rectal stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic station, watching stars that seemed to shine a little brighter now. Their partnership had become more than just a strange accident. It was now a symbol of something bigger. "Who would have thought," Junho said, "that an accidental touch would change everything?" Rectal's body shifted colors, a mix of blue and green that meant amusement. The universe works in strange ways. Alien delegates from hundreds of species now watched their partnership. What once seemed like a bizarre mistake was now seen as a breakthrough, a new way of solving problems, a new way of understanding. The Kralexi High Council had changed. Those same conservative leaders who once wanted to stop their partnership now looked at Junho and Rectal with something close to respect, maybe even admiration. They defeated the Void Swarm, Councillor Vornak had said in a recent meeting. No one has ever done that before. Earth's diplomatic corps was equally impressed. Scientists studied their unique connection, how two completely different beings could work as one perfect system, how mathematics and creativity could combine to solve impossible problems. Daeun Kim, now promoted to senior diplomatic liaison, kept detailed records of everything, every conversation, every interaction. She understood she was documenting something historic. It's not just about two individuals, she told her colleagues. It's about how different ways of thinking can work together. The ship's computer, which had been their constant companion through this journey, made one final announcement. Mate sawing huronization. 100% complete. Shunho laughed. Rectal changed colors. Their quarters remained a strange mix of human and Kralexi culture. Mathematical art hung next to human paintings. Earth music played alongside living numerical sound waves, a perfect combination of two different worlds. Other species began to copy their approach. Diplomatic missions started mixing different kinds of beings, different ways of thinking, trying to create the same kind of magic that Junho and Rectal had discovered. We are not just mates, Rectal had said many times. We are a new way of understanding the universe. Junho always agreed. The Void Swarm threat was not completely gone. But now, for the first time, there was hope. Real hope. The kind of hope that comes when different beings learn to work together. Their accidental touch had become something more. Much more. A bridge between different worlds. A new way of solving problems. A reminder that the most important discoveries often happen by accident. As they looked out at the stars, Shunho and Rectal knew something special had happened. Something that would change everything. The universe watched and waited. And somewhere, in the vast darkness of space, new possibilities were being born.